Hi, so I actually had the opportunity of watching this movie yesterday, and I guess if I could describe Force Awakens, I think it's the film that George Lucas would have wanted to make back in the 70s if he had the technology to do so. I'm sitting there eating my caramel popcorn, the practical effects look amazing, and then I think we're like, after the first third of the movie, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of things in this movie that remind me of another movie. In fact, there's a lot of things in this movie that remind me of another Star Wars movie, and that's Episode 4. The story of Force Awakens is kind of like a new hope for a new generation of Star Wars fans, if you will. The story is very similar. It's practically the same, just told with different characters. Now, do I think Force Awakens is a ripoff of Episode 4? Hell no. And I'll tell you why at the end of the review. By the way, warning, the following section does contain spoilers.
For starters, the main protagonists, both of our heroes, Luke and Rey, they both start out living in a desert planet. In Luke's case, it was Tatooine. In Rey's case, it was Jakku. And Luke's technically not a scavenger, but the plot in both Episode 4 and in Episode 7 is set in motion by a droid that the Empire or the First Order wants to get back, because the droid in Episode 4 it was R2-D2, in Force Awakens it's BB-8. Both of these droids had some type of crucial information that just they didn't want to get out. Then both of our heroes end up leaving said desert planet aboard the Millennium Falcon. Which I thought that was a great little, oh, gotcha moment when they're running and Rey looks at the ship and she's like, that's trash. And then the camera pans over and it's like, oh shit, it's the Millennium Falcon. By the way, the moment I saw her start piloting the ship, I was like, there is no fucking way this chick is not going to end up being some type of a Jedi by the end of this. The way that she was just maneuvering the ship and dodging the TIE fighters, it was crazy. It was awesome to see. It was so fun. And it made me think of something that Qui-Gon told Anakin when they first met. He told him, well, if you're doing pod racing, if you have the ability to do that, then that must mean that you have some type of Jedi reflexes or something. And then they meet Han Solo, and he's pretty old, but he still has the whole cool cowboy thing going on. A pretty old cowboy, but cool nonetheless. And so out of the previous generation, he's definitely the character, the old character with the most screen time, I believe, out of the previous gen for sure. So in a way, he kind of functions as this. He's not really a mentor like Obi-Wan Kenobi was to Luke, but he's definitely there to provide some sense of direction and guidance. Because Luke, as we could have inferred from the trailers, he's fucking gone. He's nowhere to be found. He's just vanished straight up. That's one of the first things you learn, actually. Opening credits, you see Luke Skywalker is gone. MIA. And this is the part where I want to talk about Kylo Ren. Because Kylo Ren, who is the main villain, I guess, for the movie, you could say, he is, for about 2/3 of the film, he is a fucking beast. Holy shit. Actually, no, you know what? He's a beast throughout the entire movie. I'll be honest. It's just that when I saw his, he takes off his mask, I'm like, I'm a little put the mask back on, because with the mask on, holy shit, he was so beast. When he goes on these fucking temper tantrums no Sith has ever done before. Holy fuck. In fact, one of his first scenes is him using the Force to stop a blaster beam. It was just so fucking epic. That was beast. That was just great. All right, so he's introduced as a badass to us, but then as the film goes on, you begin to realize, oh, he still has a lot to learn, and there's a lot of self-doubt. He just doesn't feel too confident in his ability. So Kylo Ren is trying very, very hard to be the next Darth Vader, because he doesn't want to disappoint people. And there's even this Emperor figure that he goes to. It's a hologram, just like in the other movies. It's not Palpatine. It's this guy called Snoke, I think. It kind of sounds like smoke. So the whole thing about the Sith, it's still going on. There can only be two, a master and an apprentice. So in this case, it's almost like the Force also had an awakening. But it awakened in the dark side. And it awakened from two people that were part of the light. Each time you have light, you always need to have dark. So in this case, it's revealed that Kylo Ren is Han Solo and Leia's son. Kylo Ren's real name is Ben, I guess as a reference to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And that's a problem for Han because, spoiler alert, Kylo Ren ends up killing his own father. He kills Han Solo. And, that scene, when it happened, I was expecting it. I was like, he's gonna fucking die. Because this is the same. The scene has the exact same structure as the scene where Darth Vader kills Obi-Wan in A New Hope. Him and Chewie are there to try and mess up this newer and bigger version of the Death Star, which, by the way, takes its energy from the sun, and it can destroy. I think it destroyed like 3 planets at once. That was fucking impressive. Holy fuck. But anyway, yeah. So they're there to try and like take it out from the inside, and then he just goes over to like Kylo Ren. And, we have Rey and Finn watching them. Just like, I mean, to me, Rey is always going to be a parallel to Luke. So Rey is watching this, and, he starts talking, and then a little bit of the light. This was really symbolic. You see a little bit of the light from the sun go out, symbolizing that Kylo Ren has achieved. Like, he's basically gone onto the dark side. There's a lot of tension. It builds up, it builds up, it builds up until finally, like, Kylo Ren turns on his lightsaber through his old man's chest. And he just falls down. And we get the exact same reaction from Rey that we got from Luke when he saw Obi-Wan die, which is, no, no. And I had the exact same reaction as Chewie in this. I was like, fuck, like you really did go through with this. You actually killed him. So Han freaking Solo is dead. He's gone. It sucks, and it's like, wow, like they really went through with this. They just fucking offed Han Solo. So I guess, and then Leia's not even on that planet, but she's so connected with the Force that she pulls a Yoda. Like how in episode 3 when they're killing the Jedi, like Yoda's like, like Leia does the exact same thing. She's like,
But then the rebel forces destroy the even bigger than normal Death Star, and they just can fly home and celebrate. Woohoo! The Chrome Trooper didn't get to do much of anything throughout the entire movie, but if you're a longtime Star Wars fan, you pretty much understand that troopers are just there to look cool for the most part, and sell merchandise for the company. Don't tell me that doesn't look badass. I mean, that armor looks amazing. In fact, the fate of the Chrome Trooper is actually another reference to Episode 4 because she gets sent to the garbage compactor.
So where does this leave characters like Poe Dameron and Finn? Well, Poe, he doesn't really get a lot of character development in the movie. And I think that's mainly because his character traits are pretty well established. Like, he's a pretty confident pilot. He's a damn good pilot. And he's just mainly there in the beginning and near the end. Finn, I think, is the most relatable character out of the bunch, just because you get to see his inner struggle in almost every scene that he's in. And his struggle is between doing what's right and what's easy. And I think he's a very good contrast to Kylo Ren, because, like, Finn struggles with doing what's right, but you can tell he really wants to be a good, like, he really wants to do what's right. Whereas Kylo Ren, he really, 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 really wants to do what's wrong. When you finally see them both go at it with their sabers, it's cool. Now, the thing about the fight is that you have to remember, like, Finn is a noob, alright? Rey awakens the Force, and she can use the lightsaber as well. But both of them are noobs. So the only way they get out alive from this fight with Kylo Ren, who's like, he's been trained. He's not top-notch Sith level, but he's trained. The thing that you would have to give Kylo Ren is some type of a handicap. And the movie does this by having him get shot. I think it's Chewie who shoots him. Basically, you have Kylo Ren versus a noob, and then another noob comes in. And you can tell, like, it's obvious that the actors were told, you need to fight this guy as if this was the first time you actually held a lightsaber. Or, like, you can tell they're not, like, trained in the Jedi arts. That being said, Daisy Ridley, who plays Rey, she carries this movie like it's a grocery bag. It's like, the film doesn't work without her. This is her story. And there's just no other way of describing the character of Rey within the film other than it just works. Like, the character just works. I don't know about you, but I felt like after the movie ended, I felt like I wanted to follow this person, this character, on more journeys, on more adventures. And so even though I think there's a lot of similarities between this episode and episode 4, the thing that just sets it apart and makes it, like, substantially different is the characters. The character dynamic is unique to episode 7 and episode 7 alone. So when we see Rey giving back Luke Skywalker his lightsaber by the end of the film, it's kind of like, in a way, like, he doesn't take the lightsaber. and I think he's going to tell her to keep it. I don't know how Luke has been able to fend for himself without a lightsaber. I guess he's that overpowered that he could just use the Force and not need a fucking lightsaber. But the point is that when that scene happened, I'm like, you don't need to give it back to him because Rey is now the new Luke Skywalker. I really thought that they were going to reveal that Rey was actually Luke's daughter. And yes, I know the Jedi Code, you can't really get attached to stuff. I was thinking that he was going to say, "Welcome home, my daughter," or something like that. No, but as it turns out, like, that doesn't happen. In fact, Luke doesn't say shit. So it's kind of like, holy shit, Luke, tell us a story. Since we get a time skip between each of the movies, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that by episode 8, Rey will be on her way to becoming a Jedi Master. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. Please tell me yours in the comment section below. If you had issues with the film, if there was something that you liked in the film, something that you made a connection to, anything regarding Star Wars Episode 7, just write it down below. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you did. I appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Catch you guys later. May the Force be with you.